So the last video I posted was 2 weeks ago, and not a ton of planting has gone on except for the back area. So at the end of the last video I said I was ready to start planting seed, and I did that. And so this is about 10 days post seeding. A lot of germination with the ryegrass. This is a Kentucky rye grass mixture that I have. Unfortunately, we had 2 major storms during that 10 days, and a lot of it got washed away. Probably all the Kentucky blue, because that takes longer to germinate and it's a really small, fine seed. But I'm really happy with what has grown so far. That'll be just fine long term. The bigger problem as we go around to the back is the last Thursday, the 24th, I guess is what it was. We had some pretty major storms, ton of washout, and as you can see in the back there, we lost 2 major trees, and on the way down, it took out several other trees. So that night, it was a pretty major storm, tornado warning type of stuff, and our property is so dark at night, and with our big windows, it was hard to see what was going on, but we heard snapping, and just had to wake up and see this wet, foggy, gross mess about a week ago. Washed out a ton of mulch as well. The landscape crew had just put down a lot of that, and we just had torrential rains. Just couldn't believe how much rain was coming out. So it washed a lot of that down. And getting back in there, it's just a mess. It was like, thankfully, none of it hit my house. None of it hit any of my existing landscape. It was all kind of on the border of the woods. So it wasn't really, it was disheartening, but it didn't really do much damage to anything other than just leaving leaves and debris everywhere. But it was a bummer that it took out, a couple of the nice red pines that we had. It really clipped those 2 trees off and just left a mess. So I was left finding a tree service, which my guys over at Woodland, they do a great job, and this was this morning, so it was about 8 days later. This was them getting after it. They showed up today. It was Saturday morning, about 8 o'clock and 8:30 in the morning, and they just started tackling it. It was really impressive to see these guys work. I mean, they didn't waste any time just chopping that stuff up. So got the drone out to do some filming of that and see what the process was like, and it was quick. I mean, the guy that was on this little device, whatever you call that, he was just a master at just collecting, gathering, piling, dragging. I mean, you can see here, he's not getting small pieces. He's picking up some pretty good sized logs with this stuff, and his ability to know kind of where he's at and what he can maneuver is pretty impressive. And then he would drag it back pretty much without looking into their little hopper, and that thing was super aggressive, rather loud. I'm sure my neighbors were not super pleased to hear just the grinding away at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. But I was last in line. There was a lot of storm damage in the past week, so this was the quickest they can get out, because there was clearly a lot of other people that had way bigger issues than I did as far as trees on houses or blocking roads and things like that. So I had to wait my turn and get in line, which was not a problem. It was still a week. But yeah, this was only 3 hours of work. Felt much better. Way more woods exposed, or the base of the forest exposed than I wanted to, but hey, it is what it is. But they made quick work of it, and we still got some stuff to trim up. Obviously that tree on the right is gross, but they can't trim that until November, so there's some more stuff to clean up and more trees to trim, but because of the oak wilt, we can't get after that. But the forest is looking really good. After we opened up that little hole, I was able to kind of fly back there and see a little bit more of it. Pretty nice. And in this area, maybe we'll do a fire pit or something. There is going to be a path that comes down kind of in between the trees and that landscape. There's going to be a cedar path that we can get to the back if need be. So maybe we'll do a little sitting area. And from up above, you can kind of see where that fork or that knife looking area where it really kind of carved through. There must have been maybe a touch of a tornado or something like that, but it is what it is. A week later, it's pretty cleaned up, and the landscape guys can now come back. They were kind of at a stopping point with the right side of the landscape until we got that cleaned up. You can see the lighting's going in. They got the left side pretty cleaned up. The irrigation guys did bust into my gas line. That was kind of a snafu, but Consumers was right on it. And this is what the light looks like at night. It's a little overexposed, or it's a little brighter in the picture than it is in real life, but super happy with how it's looking. They're doing a really great job with all that stuff. So now all that's left is getting some seed down. It's going to be super hot the next few days, at least super hot for us, in the 90s. So I'm going to hold off because there's supposed to be some more storms possibly Wednesday, Thursday. So hopefully by the end of next week, I'm putting the seed down and they're all done with the landscape, and we can kind of just start growing and cutting. So it's looking pretty good.